goodness, we're early.
Yeah, are we early? Whoa!
Yes, it's not even 9 yet.
Clap for us.
So we finished dinner early today. And I'm actually like dressed up. I feel like this is the first time I put on like proper
I'm kind of dressed up myself.
going out clothes. You know, like, yeah. I mean, you're just wearing a shirt.
Whoa, just wearing a shirt. You're just wearing a top.
No, I'm wearing a full jumpsuit. Like, you know, it even has like a ribbon.
Okay.
So
I can't stand up because I'm not wearing any shorts.
he's naked. Bottom. Anyway, if you like this jumpsuit, it is from Love Bonito. It's a brand from Singapore, but I have like on shops. I mean, you can buy it online internationally, and right now they have a promo code that they gave me, which is like stay home, and you get 10% off. So if you feel like going shopping when you're at home, you can use the code stay home.
Because you gotta look good, you know?
Whilst you're staying home.
That's
Oh, my
right.
cousin's here. Hi, Murray.
Hi!
Hi, Trang. Hi, Kahinde.
Yeah, Kehinde.
And Jane.
Hey, Jane.
How are you guys doing? So, yeah, just to cheer yourself up. Although I
Exactly.
have to say that we are very cheered up at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Xandria and I don't really take this last, like 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks for us
Yes.
in Malaysia. And we don't really see these 2 weeks as sort of like a downer. You know, sometimes you're stuck at home and you can't go out. It feels a bit like a downer, right?
Yes.
But I think for us, it's kind of like a bonus a little bit.
Yeah. We like this downtime. We find that like we get to spend a lot of time together, which is luckily good.
Yeah. My mom's watching too. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi,
Hi,
Dad.
Chris from Australia. Hi, Punita from Luxembourg. Otani. Lilibeth from home. Yes, I hope you guys are all watching from home. Jerry Well from the Philippines. Okay, so today's topic is about family relationships. Hi, Dennis Lau.
Dennis Lau.
Yeah, our good friend Dennis. Hang Moon from Vietnam. Hi, Marty. Good to see you guys here. Now, we want to talk about family relationships because I've been getting a lot of questions about how do you not have tension at home when you're with family, and a lot of you are saying that because you've been home for 2 weeks or maybe even more, or some people are just like a few days and you're already feeling like it's a lot of adjusting to do because you're not working. So you're like, some people have cabin fever.
Yeah.
And also you're surrounded by your family 24/7, which means everybody got to adjust to each other.
Yeah, and you're definitely more exposed to each other. And you know, sometimes when you're exposed to each other very often, you might have more opportunities for certain
Friction.
things to grind against each other, the friction to happen, and then some spark will really like make it explode sometimes, you know?
So here we want to talk about how to make our relationships with our family better. Now, this is assuming that you value the relationship that you have with certain family members, because sometimes you may not get along with certain family members and you feel that it's okay. You don't really want to work on that, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
But if you're in the house, I want to use the word stuck, but like if you're already in the house with your family members, whether they are your parents, your kids, or your in-laws, or the cousins, and maybe it's already harder for you to get along normally. Like they test your patience. You know how family members always test your patience. And now that you have to spend so much time with them, the objective is for you to not feel so frustrated, and for you to be able to instead turn this around into an opportunity where you can actually build a better relationship.
Yeah, and this is something that extends beyond the sort of quarantine or lockdown periods that we are experiencing. Is what do we want our relationship to be like moving forward with our loved ones, with our family, our immediate family, or our siblings, our parents, right? Now, which like what do you want to have? And
What's the objective?
And very rarely do we have an opportunity where the world sort of resets a little bit.
This is like a reset.
Yeah, you know, it's sort of like a reset, right? And it's very hard when you're doing your normal everyday things and then they're doing their normal everyday things, and suddenly you say, I want to reset this relationship, right? I want to sort of change it up a little bit. It's really difficult, right? It can be done, it's just a bit harder. So now is a great opportunity, like Ben here says. Imagine what it's like for
Bex.
for those what it's like for those with 3 generations in tiny Hong Kong apartments. And that's true, 3 generations crammed into one apartment, right? And sometimes it's very rare that these things happen. So it is an opportunity as well. It might feel like it's sometimes choking you or stifling you or very difficult, but with difficulty comes opportunity as well.
So today we're going to share with you, like, I don't know what Yuri's going to share because all this is not prepared, but I want to share with you like personal practices that I find helps me a lot with my family relationships, and it takes a little bit of a conscious effort. But I feel like my relationships with my mom and like with Yuri and even with my in-laws, with like Yuri's brother and his wife, like all the family relationships that I value, it's even with like my aunts, I feel like I want to be able to put in certain kind of effort to get what I want from the relationship. So one of the first things, oh wait, before that, can I just say hi to someone's daughter?
Yeah, it's
Yes, Marie says her daughter Elaine is watching. So hi Marie, hi Elaine. Hello to everybody saying hi. Okay, so if you've just joined us, we're talking about family relationships. Now, one of the main things I think is very important for us to be aware of is our objective. Now, if you're at home and you're surrounded by family members and it's a bit stressful and you're feeling a bit tense, like it's a bit tension, and it's hard, the first thing to help yourself feel better is to ask yourself, what is your objective? Now, you cannot control the elements that you cannot control. What are the elements you cannot control? The quarantine you cannot control. COVID-19 you cannot control. You cannot control your family members. You cannot control how they are. So then let's look at what you have power over. You have power over your own thoughts, your own emotions, and your own actions. So these are the things that you have a lot of power over. And if you start to focus on this, for one, it really empowers you. And when you focus on, okay, I have the power to determine how I want to behave, how I want to sound, and what I want to think. Now, what's my objective? So if, let's say, it's a mother-in-law or father-in-law, any family member, and you're looking at this person and you actually don't have a lot of things in common with the person, and maybe it's a little bit challenging, your normal relationship, then you gotta ask yourself, what is my objective? And a lot of times, if we don't ask ourselves this question, we don't know what our objective is, right? Maybe your objective is just like, I have no choice. You don't really know what the objective is. But if you really look at it, one of the objectives is, I guess for everybody would be the same, which is you want to be happy. You want to be able to spend the next few weeks of being at home not feeling frustrated and feeling relaxed and feeling like not stressed. That's one objective. So to have some kind of peace within yourself, right? So I think we're all pretty similar on that page. Now, each of us also have our personal objectives when it comes to our family. If you don't get along with, let's say, your mother-in-law, maybe your objective is you want to have a great relationship with your spouse, right? With your wife or with your husband. And you know that the way to do that with all of you together is for you to not be triggered by this person that's in the house. So you need to hook on to something that gives you a very strong objective to let go of frustration. Otherwise, if you don't focus on this objective, what you end up doing is reacting every time the person says something, and it'll trigger you. Every time the person does something that you don't agree with, it'll trigger you, right? Because you're so familiar with this person already.
Yeah, and outside of that as well, I because I came into this chat thinking more about also the long-term things that I sort of like we all want to experience with our family.
Yeah.
So in terms of like for me, for example, like I know I want to have a good relationship with my parents, my in-law, my mother-in-law, my wife, and my brother-in-law and his wife, and my brother and his wife, and all these like I know that moving forward, I want to have great relationships, not just like, oftentimes when we're young, our relationship has sort of solidified into a certain pattern.
Yeah.
Like let's say you grow up with your parents or you grow up with your sibling, right? And you sort of lock into a certain kind of relationship. Maybe one is sort of the one who always sort of controls you, or maybe always criticizes you, or maybe you have a bit of a love-hate relationship with your sister or brother. Then that becomes the norm for you. And as the years go by, it sort of calcifies into this hard rock-like thing that doesn't change. Now, I want to sort of slowly chip away and disentangle, shape this thing into something that I would prefer right now, because there are so many years left, or maybe so few years, I don't know, right, to spend time with your loved ones.
So just to interrupt a little bit, like this is called empowering yourself to shape your current relationship. It doesn't have to be the same story, the same shape forever, ever.
Yeah.
If you feel like you want a better story, you want a different shape, you have the power to shape it.
Exactly, and it's our responsibility to shape it the way we would like it to be. So you don't shape these things by sort of like
Trying to
knocking them, you know. Because what you do is you sort of like open up the doors, right, and allow things to flow, right? So you can't force shapes, like you can't push people into a mold and say be this shape, be this shape, right? That's not how it works, right? So the first thing I do when it comes to these things is to recognize all my relationships, the people I have relationships as, not as my brother or my father or my mom. It's they are people. They're human beings.
Detach the labels a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like this person was the person who disciplined me when Dada was his age or something. But the roles have changed now, and they are a human being. Even when they were my, protector or whatever role they had, they are a human being with emotions, with fears, and sometimes they might not feel certain about themselves or their lives as well. And I would just like to be like compassionate to that as human beings, right? And of course our relationship, like sort of genetically is still the same, right?
But in your mind,
I see them with all their aspects of being a human, which is with their hopes, their fears, and the fact that they also feel those things, the same things that I feel.
now why it's so important, I think what Yuri said about detaching from the label of like, oh, this is my mother, my father, my in-law, my child, is so that whatever association that you've had, or the habits that you've developed over the years that shape it into this, whatever shape it is right now, you won't be so easily triggered. Because what you want to do is you want to change the habit of how you usually communicate with this person. So let's say this is a hard rock and it's shaped like this, and you don't quite like this shape, whether it's with your parents or your kids, and you want to shape it into a little something that is a bit more pleasing to you, more beautiful to you, to make it a bit more beautiful, make the relationship more beautiful, and you want to be able to do that. However, what's stopping us often is the habitual response. So if you and I have had a history where you used to discipline me, or you used to, I don't know, maybe I feel like you criticized me, or maybe I feel like you don't trust me, and now if I feel that way towards, like, say, my mom or my mother-in-law, then right now it's solidified, like Yuri says, into this shape. So whatever my mom or my mother-in-law says, then I will attach all these past experiences into what my relationship with her is right now. So whatever they say, I will feel triggered. But if, let's say, you detach the label of like, oh, this is my mom, she's always nagging at me, or this is my mother-in-law, she's always criticizing me, or this is my dad, he doesn't understand me, or this is my husband, he always doesn't help me. Because if you just look at them as human beings, then there's no story. There's no like, oh, my husband doesn't always doesn't help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we got to remember this for our spouses as well, because like for us, we've been married 10 years, so and it's not like the same relationship you might have with your parents, where you spend decades with them, right?
So ingrained.
Yeah, so ingrained. But even with your spouse, even with your girlfriend or boyfriend that you spend maybe 2 years with, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years, you do fall into patterns of what the relationship is.
Yes.
Somebody is maybe always the one that scolds you, or the one that tells you you're not good enough, or you need to be neater, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So to see that this person is a person that has all these
flaws as a human
as well,
being,
to understand them like you want to understand yourself, is a form of love and compassion that can shape the relationship in a direction that allows
Just
it.
to give an example, right? Like, you know how you and your parent have this relationship, but your friends, when they meet your mom or your dad, they have a different relationship with your mom and dad. A lot of people say, oh, you know, I wish my mom was like your mom, you know, because she's so cool. Because they don't have an association and a past history that has shaped the relationship into solidified into this shape. For them, it's like a fresh start, right?
Yeah.
They're seeing your parent or your mom or dad as human beings. So there's no sensitivities, there's very little habitual triggers. And so now, because we're spending so much time with our family, we don't even realize that we're constantly being triggered. And we know this because any tension or stress you feel right now around your family members, it is because you are triggered. It is not because they are triggering you. They are who they are. They've always been the way they have been. Is that you are triggered.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they are right. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you cannot control what you cannot control. You cannot control other people. You cannot control the circumstance. But you have absolute power over how you feel about it inside here. So you can choose to be not triggered.
And also, adding to that is that the relationship that you have with all the people that we talk about is that because it's solidified a certain way, sometimes you don't talk about some certain things.
Yeah.
So it's not open, and it's very difficult to open up sometimes. Like suddenly, sort of want to open up and
talk
it's a
about
bit
your feelings.
awkward at certain times, especially at the start when you want to begin this thing. But if you know that you want to be closer to someone and you practice that openness, right? That honesty, right? In that relationship, that helps the relationship. Because if you do feel down or bad, or if you do feel something, or if you always want to be closer, say it. If you know, like, we only have so much or so little time in this world, right? And if you've always thought of doing it, why not do it now?
And if you've always felt like maybe ignored or criticized or uncared for or unloved for, this is one of the great times to actually have a conversation to your partner about it. Now, as we all know, it's not just about like wanting to talk, it's about how we communicate. And I think if there is anything that we have learned in communicating with people we love, because it's very sensitive, it's very easy to be triggered, is number one, to not take everything they say so personally. So we have to be mentally prepared that when we convey something to our partner, they are not going to give you a response that you expect or that you want. Most of the time they won't, because they're not us. And maybe they also might be shocked, they also may be surprised, and they also might feel hurt,
Yeah.
So it's not just you, one person feeling hurt. And when they feel hurt, they might also react and they're triggered. And so one very important thing is for us to already have the mindset that this person may not understand and they may not agree, and it's okay. If you feel yourself reacting, like you feel yourself getting anxiety and feel anxious, breathe and remember that this is not war. We focus on your objective, which is I want a better relationship with my mom, with my dad, with my husband, with my wife, with my kid. You focus on that objective.
Sometimes a simple guideline when it comes to this is we are very tempted to tell them, like in being open with them, we are tempted to tell them what they make us feel. You're so messy and you've been messy for decades, and I keep telling you this and you never change, and it makes me feel very frustrated. That's not exactly what I mean. That might come at a later time, right? But to bring understanding into that conversation, like to be curious as to why they are like that, to talk to them about the ways that they are, and to try to understand them more than to say, I want you to know this.
I just wrote a blog post on dairy. I've been talking about dairy because I've started writing in dairy this month. It's like my blog, and I wrote about how there is a difference between conveying a need. Because we all have needs, right? Like maybe we need our partner to be more sensitive. Maybe we need our partner to be more considerate. Maybe we need our partner to talk a bit more. I don't know what your needs are. Everybody has different needs. And and no need is stupid, okay? If you have a need, you have some kind of anxiety with that need, maybe you fear having not enough money, maybe you have a need to feel security, that's fine. Now, there is a difference between conveying your need and saying something to your partner that comes across as an accusation. And like what Yuri says earlier about sometimes we are just telling someone something. So I give you an example in what I wrote, right? Is that I used to feel like, why didn't Yuri offer to pick me up at the airport? Like, if I need to go to the airport, why didn't he offer to send me to the airport if we're traveling separately? Why didn't he immediately offer? Like, usually, like how I would think, like, typically, the guy or your partner should immediately offer to send you to the airport or pick you up from the airport, because if they love you, why wouldn't they do that? And you know, he'll be like, and then I would feel so upset. And back then, I didn't know how to communicate like what we are saying to you right now, because I just know my feeling is that I feel upset. Okay, so that I want to talk to him about it. But I didn't know how to. I didn't know to tell him that, in my family, whenever either one of us need transportation, you know, my father or my brother would immediately offer to pick us up, like pick me and my mom
More
up.
towards the men in the family picking the women up.
Yeah, like for my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like in my family culture, in my family dynamics, that is love. That is showing care. That is showing concern. And so that's why I think he should immediately offer, and this is why I got upset. So then I didn't know how to tell him that, in like the other day when you didn't offer to pick me up from the airport, or you didn't offer to send me to the airport, I'm just very curious why, because I felt a bit hurt. And I think it's because that, you know, to me, conveying care and conveying love has a lot to do with offering to keep the person safe. Like maybe taking public transport may not be so safe, especially in Malaysia, you know, and so my family used to always offer, and that's how I feel love. So in this instance, when you didn't offer, I felt like you didn't care for my safety. I feel like you didn't care about me, and that's why I was feeling hurt, you know. And then as you are saying that, also you kind of realize the person does care, they do care about you, so you're actually genuinely curious, like why didn't he offer? Like that's what the me today would say. But back then, I probably would say something like, why you never offer to pick me up, huh? Like I said, you don't care about me, is it? What if I get kidnapped? You know, oh, you really don't care about me, huh? Like, you know, like that's what I would say, right? Because then it would be more of an accusation, like, why didn't you? Don't you care about me? Don't you care that I might get kidnapped? You know, like, and all this emotional outbursts will come out. And that would be more along the lines of an accusation. And he probably would also feel very defensive, and he would have a lot of justifications because he also has reasons, but I wouldn't be in the right frame of mind to listen to it, because he's probably not going to say something that I want to hear.
Yeah.
You know?
So therein lies the idea of that strengthening of what we were talking about entering a conversation with the sort of curiosity to understand, right? But we must be in that frame of mind. You can't feel that unfairness or unhappiness and then go in and say, I want to be curious. It's very tricky. Like, you can't do that. You might have to give yourself some time, you know.
I think what you're saying is that, like, don't go into it feeling like a victim.
Yeah, don't go into it, because at some point it's going to flip into that point where you start getting frustrated and it becomes a very unproductive conversation.
We've been there.
Yeah. So I've experienced this myself, right? In the
Yeah.
sense that, like, I entered something thinking, oh, I want to do this, but I didn't recognize, or wasn't wise enough to recognize my state of mind wasn't good enough to sustain that a genuine, proper, loving conversation, a curious conversation, right? So sometimes you have to give yourself a bit of time. And you have to be a bit wise to recognize when you are feeling sort of like overwhelmed. That's the word I would use.
What would you do? Like, what do you do when you're overwhelmed?
Give yourself time. Because, you know, you don't feel overwhelmed 24/7. And sometimes a day you just do feel better, right?
So
And-
you would say that when you're feeling that in a conversation, how would you exit the conversation?
Yeah, well, like right now, we would just say like, you know what, I'm not in the frame of mind that can handle something like that right now, and I think it's going to go somewhere that's not very useful.
I tell Yuri now, like I say that I'm speaking emotionally now, and it probably doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So
See,
that's what I tell him now.
we know that because we both experience that and we understand that,
Yeah.
and that makes it easier for both of us to communicate because we understand that at this point we're not just abandoning each other,
Yeah.
or like trying to abandon you to say, "Ha, now I win" or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
I mean, why can't we just be super honest with each
Yeah.
other and say that, you know, I'm feeling really hurt right now, and then you going, I'm feeling really hurt right now too, and then everybody just knows that they feel hurt.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we both understand that there's this giant bag of like grain on the ground and we're trying to pick it up and just say, I can't pick it up right now, I'm just really tired and my knees are sore.
And when somebody
Right.
says that, don't take it so personally, like, wow, you mean you don't care about me enough to pick it up, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? We have to work on ourselves
Yeah.
to allow ourselves to not feel like that when our partner might not be able to see it,
Yeah.
might not be able to dig themselves out of that situation, and this is for our own peace of mind as well.
Actually, when somebody is angry, right, they can really come across that they don't care about you because they can say things or they can brush you off or they can lose their cool, and you can feel like they don't care enough about you to stay calm during the conversation. You can feel like they don't care enough about you to listen to you, and then they just get angry at
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You can feel like it's because they don't care that they're behaving this way. But I can tell you that it is not because they don't care. It is because they themselves are not skilled enough
they're not
to
able.
handle
Yeah.
their own emotions.
It's exactly what like Chris here is talking about. It's saying it's hard not to be triggered sometimes when parents have an old school way of thinking that's not always so understanding. Because of this, sometimes I feel like less inclined to share or talk about things with them because I know how they will react. And that's exactly it, right? We have a habitual relationship, right?
Yeah.
So if I start opening up about my job, for example, and maybe I have an issue with my mother, for example, about my job, and then she would keep saying these things, and then I would say no, and then we will go back into the same patterns, right? And then the next time I say, you know what, it's going to become this bad situation anyway, so let's just not talk about it. But analyzing the situation is because I have a need from my mother to react a certain way, right? And if that need goes away, that's fine. Then I can just express it. She can react however she wants, and I have no need for her to be whatever.
Okay, goes back to the beginning, right? Like, you must know your objective of sharing and talking to your parents. You already know that they will react this way, right? And so when they do react that way, why are you disappointed? You already know they'll react that way. One of the reasons we feel disappointed is because we feel like they don't support us. We feel unsupported. We feel like they don't understand. We feel like we want the kind of approval and validation from our parents. And sometimes in their reaction to us, it may not come across as such. So now this is our own fear and our own need. It has nothing to do with our parents. Obviously, this goes way back into your history and the way you guys communicate and how they brought you up when you were young. But now that you're an adult, you can reshape that story. So again, when you share things with your parents, what's your objective? Is your objective for your parents to suddenly tell you like, oh, you've done such a good job, correct, you're right, oh, good son, good, everything? Is that your objective? Or is your objective just sharing your life with your parents so that they feel included? If you have to know what your objective is. If your objective is, I just want to keep my parents in the loop, right, of my life so they feel included, so they feel like I care, so they feel loved. If that's your objective, then you know the mindset of which you have to go into the conversation with. Means you have no expectation of what they should or shouldn't respond. It is like you go to an apple seller and they give you apple. You know they'll give you apple. You know your parents will respond a certain way or react a certain way. But you keep wishing they give you orange instead. isn't that your own suffering? You already know your parents are like that.
Yeah.
You already know. What are you going to do? You're going to say that they don't care, that they're wrong? I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Whether they're right, whether they're wrong. What matters is what's your objective. If your objective is I have to prove that I'm right, it's very different.
That's why it's really important, whether it's with our spouse, with our parents, right, with our in-laws, to recognize our need with them.
Yes.
Whether we need approval, whether we need security with them, whether we need love, whatever that means to us. All these things, if we recognize what is within us,
Yeah.
right, and our expectations for them towards us, then we can have a better relationship with them. Yeah.
Clara here has a question.
Yeah, she'd like to ask one question. Is it possible for equality between husband and wife? 50-50. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like 50% of the time Xandria cooks and 50% of the time I eat the food. No, I'm just kidding. Right. But, you know,
I think you should read my book. Read my book.
Yeah.
Because I talk about this, okay? The concept of fairness, especially in a relationship. Everything that you need to know about, is it possible for equality 50-50? The answer is here, especially chapter 2 and chapter 3. It's not easy for us to answer this question, to give you any kind of advice through this live chat, because there are many things that go into understanding the concept of fairness, understanding why holding on to the concept of fairness brings us misery, why the concept of fairness leads to expectations, and why expectations bring us misery. It's very hard for us to understand that it is not our partner who's making us miserable. It is how we want them to be different from who they are that's making us miserable. It's very hard to take responsibility for what we want and what we need and our fears. Normally, we just think that we're right. Okay, I'll give you an example, okay? I was talking to, I think, Yuri or my mom about this, and I say, Yuri and my mom have a more similar habit about house neatness. Let's give an example, right? So I think I was talking to my mom about it, right? Like, growing up in my mom's house, she's always spick and span. Everything is very organized, very well arranged. And my room, it's always like a tornado, right? And I've always kind of felt like my way is the wrong way. Like, because my mom would keep telling me, like, oh, why is it so messy, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like my way is the wrong way and her way is the right way. And obviously, looking at a neat place and a messy place, a neat place just looks nicer, right? So logically, it would seem like a person who's neater is more right, and a person who's messier should change to be like the person who's neater. However, I had this conversation with my mom and I said, actually, what you have is a preference for neatness. What I have is a preference to just put my things everywhere. That's our different preferences. It's not who is more right and who's more wrong. We have different preferences. And this is something that I think I spoke to you about as well. I'm like, why is the status quo, one person is always better and more right and the other person has to change? Why can't the conversation be, oh, I like my house neat, and when it's really messy, it makes me feel very anxious and stressed. So maybe I can help you, I can teach you how to arrange things in a way that is less messy.
Yeah.
Why can't a conversation be like
exactly.
that?
And it's kind of like goals as well, like objectives, right? As Xandria said at the start of this talk, is our objectives, like, do you want to be able to find things? Right?
Yes.
And sometimes you lose things for years and you don't know where it is, you buy another one, you spend more money, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Or do you want, and the question is not necessarily right or wrong. Or do you want to spend a lot of time or some effort making sure things are in the right place? Maybe not, because it's time, right?
Between two people,
Yeah.
right? Why must this person who think they're right impose something on the other person and they have to change, adjust to? Like between
That's
you and
why
me,
the objectives need to be outlined, right?
Exactly.
So that if it makes sense to you, then you don't have to be told to do it, because you would do it. But if it doesn't make sense to you, then you won't do it. That's all. Because let's say, oh, if you do it 100 sit-ups a day, you get a six-pack.
But maybe a six-pack is not important to the person.
Maybe I don't really care for a six-pack.
Yeah.
Right? But if you do 100 sit-ups a day, maybe your risk of cardiovascular disease will be divided by half. And you say, oh yeah, you know what? I'm really afraid of getting a heart attack because my grandfather had one or something. And then I would do it. So it depends on your objective.
So a lot of things, right? Like between a very fit person and a very unfit person, then obviously we will say like, oh, the fit person is more right and therefore should try to change the less fit person to be more like himself, especially in a relationship, whether it's a husband and wife or parent and child relationship, right? But at the end of the day, when we have that mindset, thinking that my way is more right, my way, I'm healthier, I am more organized, I'm neater, and therefore I feel very frustrated, when this person I don't know why the person cannot see, that this is better, right? It's we who cannot see that it's our preference. If we are fitter, it is because we prefer to eat a certain kind of food. It's because we prefer to work out. We prefer to be fit. It's a preference, right? And for the other person, they might like to be fit, but maybe they prefer to sleep than to go to the gym. Maybe they prefer to eat French fries instead of vegetables.
So it's all about objectives as well, right? What objective do you prefer, right? I prefer the enjoyment of food over, say, health, maybe, right? And maybe that's true, right? Or I prefer to enjoy now than to save up for later because, maybe we might die tomorrow. And that's also an objective, right? My objective is to spend now and enjoy it now. Or maybe my objective is to have a great life when I'm older because I have security. So all these objectives need to be clear to us as opposed to saying, I want you to do this.
Yes.
I want you to save. Right?
Yes, I want you to be neater. Why are you not? I already told you 10 times.
Exactly.
How much more can I tell you? I already told you. And if you don't do it, it must mean that you don't love me. And that's our conclusion in our head. That's why we are miserable. Again, it is not our partner making us miserable. It is our inability to take responsibility for our preferences, for our standards, for our needs and our fears. And then we start to project these things in the way we communicate with them. So instead of trying to understand my objective and his objective and speaking in a language that we can discuss what our different objectives are, then it becomes but can't you see?
Yeah.
Don't you know?
That's why I think the results are very important, right? It's like maybe smoking might be a preference, right?
Yes.
But the results are that you very high risk of lung cancer, right? And you're definitely not as healthy. So the importance is what are the results of what we do, whether our relationships, like how do we interact with our loved ones, right? We might say this is fine. I love sort of like joking about my brother's weight or something like that, right? And I think it's fun. But what are the results of it, right? What are the long-term results of something like that? So we have to look into what our objectives in the long run.
So like Shirley here is saying, I disagree regarding being organized. It's not about preference. Messy minds inside and out are not as productive as it could be in their life and relationships. If you live alone on an island, be messy, otherwise respect others. So what you just said, this whole paragraph is actually your preference. It's your belief and it's your value. Now, if you fall in love with somebody who has a different belief and a different preference, it'll be very difficult for you if you cannot give understanding that this person is a different human being and they may have a different belief and different value. Because with you think this way, then what will end up happening is that you will have a lot of judgment towards this person for not being organized and having a messy mind, and that person will always feel very judged, right? And then you will start to feel like this person is very disrespectful towards you, but actually they're just being themselves. They love you and they respect you, but it is that you feel disrespected.
Yeah, exactly. And that extends a lot to many things that we might not be conscious about. Sometimes we see a person and say, that person you see is so messy with his hair and the way he dresses, and then we judge them, right?
Yes.
So all these things are just, there are repercussions to these things, of course, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, if the person is happy to live with those repercussions,
Yes.
then, I doubt normally the unproductive things that people are happy if we really, really question it, right?
Yes.
Like Akila says, does that mean that people can stay the way they are? They obviously can't stay the way they are, right? Everybody has the right to stay the way they are, and everybody has the right to change, right? We only change because we want to, and we want to because we see the result of something that we desire.
You know, what we're actually trying to say in all of these things is not about who is more right and which preference is more right. What we're saying is that in your communication with your partner, if your mindset is that your belief is right and your way is right, then the whole conversation will be about you trying to convince the person that you are right.
Yeah, there's no curiosity, you know? Like, we come in already, we're saying that this person is doing it the
You
wrong
already
way.
judge
is
the
living the
person.
wrong way, right?
Yes.
So let's say someone smokes, and I don't agree with people smoking because I know the sort of like repercussions of smoking,
yes.
right? And I don't go and say, why are you such an idiot and smoke cigarettes, right?
You know it's bad for you,
Like
right?
it's obviously stupid and scientifically proven that you're gonna like die earlier than people, right? I mean, like that's not the way we want to approach. I'm curious. I think my friend is intelligent.
Yeah.
Or I think my sibling is intelligent or whatever, and I would ask them like,
Why? Yeah, why?
What's the appeal? Like, does it make you feel a certain way? Like,
Yeah.
talk to me about it. I'm curious, right?
Yes.
I'm really curious.
Trying to approach the conversation from a perspective of trying to understand the person as opposed to trying to change the person.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I condone it for everyone should do it or something like that. It's just that I'm curious.
Yes, and I tell you something, if you approach a conversation with the mindset that like your normal is not, I don't know if you can see this, your normal is not the universal normal, it helps you so much in just conveying what you feel to your partner and to any family member, because it's so often that we feel like our normal, like my standard, that I am professional, I'm on time, I am very organized, you know, I'm very fit, and obviously my way is better. I don't smoke like you smoke, you're sometimes late, so obviously like I'm better than you. And so when I'm talking to you, I think like you should adjust to my normal. And because of that, the tone that we're speaking to the person, the way we communicate is filled with judgment, expectation, you know, and then we say we love the person.
Yeah.
What is love?
And
Love
that-
is understanding.
Yeah, and understanding is also understanding that sometimes people are not as capable, or their journey is different from ours, you know, and sometimes they might express some things that we might not. Like, why are you always so negative? You know, if we are negative towards the negativity, we are sort of like jumping on the same boat, right?
Yeah, it's true. And all this person like, why are you so negative? You have to look at yourself, because if they're negative but you are positive, then you won't be affected by the negativity.
Yeah, you would be curious about like what is, and loving in the sense that what is the thing that
Making
makes
this
you
person
feel
suffer.
like that? Like are you suffering because of that? Maybe they're not. Maybe they super enjoy being negative. Like, I love being a cynic, you know, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
because the world is a terrible place. So maybe that's their point of view, and it's interesting to listen to. It makes life more interesting to understand different points of view.
Yeah, and it goes to any family member that you're quarantined with right now.
And you know, sometimes like we get the impression that certain groups they give a hue and cry about how, because someone expresses an opinion, as if like everybody would just suddenly change their opinion, right? We are all intelligent human beings who can look at points in different perspectives, right? So it's great if someone offers a perspective that's different from ours.
And it triggers us
Yeah, and if it triggers us, it actually teaches us something.
about ourselves.
Yeah, why does it trigger me? Right? Why do I feel this? It's because I might have some fear, expectation, or hope, or something that the world is different from what it is.
If someone calls you a dog and you look behind you, there's no tail, then you're not a dog. Why are you upset that someone called you a dog? It must be some sort of fear of disrespect or need for some sort of
Yeah.
validation
And
that serves our
truly-
ego.
Truly happy and peace, and people who are at peace
Yeah.
are people who can look at this and say, I see, that's interesting.
Or I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But I want to understand why this person would think.
Yeah,
would
what's
think
what's
so.
their point of view? Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Okay, full stop. That's it.
Especially with family members, you kind of know that they love you and you know that they're not stupid. So why are they so adamant to not do what you think is right. So they're not stupid and they love you. So why? What's the reason? So, we have to be like, oh yeah, be curious. Like, yeah, I wonder why. Because you will be so surprised at what you learn. Often you just say, I don't know why. Isn't it time to find out?
Yeah,
why?
yeah, that's funny.
I don't know why they're like that.
It boggles my mind, right? Let's say, right? And if it boggles your mind, I'm sure you're a smart person who can go and find out, right? And then not boggle your mind with it, right? Yeah.
Akila says, LOL, I have been communicating the wrong way this whole time. You know what? Honestly, the only reason Yuri and I can talk about all these things is because it's how we used to communicate. We used to accuse each other a lot. Although we didn't know that we were accusing, we just thought we were communicating.
Yeah, when both sides feel like they are the writer one, right?
Yeah,
then he's going, right? It feels, like
not
the scale
writer,
goes up.
but writer.
The scale goes up and down, right? But our scale is special. We both feel like we are both up.
Everybody feel like
the left feels like it's up and the right feels like it's up.
How is it possible?
Right? And that's a weird, like...
Go download the Dairy app, DAYRE. Google it, download it. It's 1 month free subscription. It's like a blog platform.
Xandria writes a lot about our stories, that we used to experience.
I just wrote about exactly this thing, how we used to communicate.
Yeah.
Right? Go follow me at Xandria Ui. Jude here says, it's my preference, now I see it, but sometimes I'll still blow up if it's not my preference.
That's fantastic, because that is a sign
yes
that there is some work to be done, right?
Yay!
It's very hard because sometimes we say, oh, what do I need to work on? What do I need
I
to
don't
work
know what
on?
I need to work on.
When you say, oh, you blow up because of this, that is what you need to work on, right? There is something that is triggering you, right? You are being triggered by something.
The more triggered you are, if you switch your perspective from this person made me angry to asking, why am I angry? No, then the answer is usually the first layer answer, because he made me angry, that's why I'm angry. Then you go to the second layer reasoning. But why do I feel so upset? Again, a person called you a dog. You look behind, you don't have a tail, you're not a dog. Why are you upset?
Maybe you're a tailless dog.
You have to say that's true. So you get what I mean,
yeah.
Right? So every time, like now, especially if you're quarantined together with your family and you want to have, a better time with them, you don't want to have any stress and tension and everything, this is the best time for you, if you are triggered, if you are stressed, if you are upset, if you feel criticized and you feel like they are judging you, ask yourself, what do I need from them? Why am I so affected? You already know that you're buying apples. This is an Apple store. And if they give you apple, why are you so affected?
Can I have an orange, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, sir, this is an Apple store. We only sell iPhones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was imagining like a red apple that you can bite into, but yeah. I mean, if you get what I mean, does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. But anyway, I think that I hope we've covered everything.
Yeah, I know. We hope that these little tips and perspectives might help ease your difficult times with your loved ones. If you're spending a lot of tricky time with them right now, or if you're just spending time and you moving into the future after the whole quarantine lockdown type activities, you want to build a different relationship with your loved ones, then you can move forward like this.
We can change the story of any relationship we have with the people we love. We don't have to wait until they pass away and then we regret. We don't have to wait until our children grow up and they start to avoid us, then we regret. You don't want your parents to pass away and then you regret, So whatever triggers that you have, whatever stress and anxiety that you feel with your parents, this is the perfect time. And if you feel very impatient with your kids and you feel like, you always have a temper, this is the time to work on yourself. At the end of the day, always remember that it doesn't matter if nobody else in your family is putting in effort. If you decide to put in the effort today, you are watering your own garden. And then you can think, but they also enjoy the garden. They also should water the garden. Huh? Why should I water and they get to enjoy the garden? But the better question is, why should I care who benefit as long as I benefit?
But I do want to highlight one interesting thing though. Sometimes they come and trample your garden, right? Yeah, and the same thing remains, right? The same thing remains is that you have to be open, curious about why they are, how they are. Talk to them about it. You know, be compassionate about the kind of people that they are, right? And then express what you might want the direction to go.
Your garden is like your soul. It is like your very being. It is who you are inside. It is how you feel about yourself. It is your joy. It is your happiness. When you water the garden, you are building yourself up. You are filling your soul. You're making yourself into this person who you can be proud of. It doesn't matter if the other person is doing it or not for themselves in their lives, right? You will never lose by working on yourself. At the end of the day, you gain, you know, and that's how.
Yeah, that's how we come out of this
Wow,
lockdown.
talented.
Yeah, you're very talented. She's very talented in a lot of things, you know.
He's so sarcastic.
No, I'm not sarcastic. I'm being extremely honest here. Xandria is talented at a lot of things that she thinks she's not talented at, right? But one day we shall feature those talents.
Okay. Oh, my auntie! Yay! Main Ayi is
Thank
here.
you.
Okay, so have a fantastic quarantine time.
Yeah.
Have a fantastic family time.
Hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah. And we will see you again next week. All right? Mwah.
Take
Be
care.
happy always.
Bye.